everybody, Michelle McClunan here, astrologer and life coach, and I'm bringing you another astrology forecast for the new moon, which is happening on the 27th of August in the sign of Virgo, and the energy is building towards that. And this energy that I'm going to kind of try to explain to you is going to be felt over the next few weeks. New moons are always a time of new beginnings and setting new intentions and looking at things afresh. It's also a time where we tend to go more inward, whereas full moons are a time of more outward motion. So this is pretty intense themes. Many of the themes that I've explained over the last few months in terms of the breaking down to break through, which I discussed last time on my full moon video, are still in place. And I'll try to break that down for you. So first of all, if you look at the different significators or the different alignments in this particular time that we're experiencing, we've got the new moon, which is always an intense time because the sun and the moon come together at the same degree. Those two are actually in a square to the planet Mars, which is the planet of war and goals, going out there and making things happen. Uranus, the planet of change, is just turning retrograde, which means that it's more intense. It's also moving towards a square with Saturn. So what does that all mean in English? So first of all, the new moon is in Virgo. Virgo is the sign, it's a mutable earth sign. It's the sign that's associated with healing, with simplifying, with, it's the virgin goddess. So it's about purifying. Those are all the kind of higher vibrational qualities of Virgo. It's quite pragmatic, it's quite grounded, it can be quite strategic, quite analytical, and it can kind of put things in order. So it can look at things and say, yeah, that I'm discerning that from that, that's what I need to do, not that. On the other side of Virgo, though, it can actually be quite critical and it can be very head-based. So a lot going on in the head, a lot of thoughts, a lot of processing, a lot of analyzing. Now, the new moon in Virgo is a good time for us to look at what we need to order, where we need to actually look at, for example, our diets, because Virgo is also associated with the body and with healing. So what are we eating that isn't serving us? Are we getting enough exercise? Are we getting enough sleep? To try to bring balance to that. The ruler of Virgo is Mercury. Mercury is in the sign of Libra. Libra is the sign of balance. So that tells us how we can actually start to really bring about healing at a deeper level. And that is to balance the energies within us, to balance our food, to balance our sleep, to balance our emotional side, our mental side, our physical side. It's to bring balance. It's also to bring balance to the masculine and feminine within us. We each have masculine, we each have feminine. If we're feeling kind of sedentary, a bit melancholic, procrastinating, maybe depressed, not able to get out of bed, not wanting to get out of bed, not able to move through or forward with something, that could mean that your feminine is a little high. It's a little bit out of balance. If, on the other hand, you're feeling quite anxious and quite sparked, which I imagine quite a few of you are feeling due to the other alignments, which I'm coming to, then it will probably mean that you're living more in the future and that the masculine needs to actually come back into balance. So that's a big theme that's going to carry us through from here, from now, right up until October. So it's to bring balance where we need to bring balance. So bringing balance to the masculine and feminine is our theme for our Hogsback Retreat, which is happening on the 23rd of September, which is the day of the equinox, which is basically the balance point between seasons. It's a very, very powerful day. So John and I have actually aligned our starting day with the equinox, and we're really keen to go there and actually see what happens, because Hogsback is such a magical, incredibly powerful place energetically. So we invite you to have a look at that. You can see the details in the box below. Have a look and see if you can join us. It'll be magical. And it's very in keeping with the themes that we're experiencing right now, which is to bring balance to the masculine and feminine. So that we'll do over 4 days, and it'll be through meditation, through some teaching, through some sharing, through some group activities, through walks in nature, a lot of nature, and as well as creative exercises and art processes to actually help you to balance from a non-mind perspective. So getting into the right brain. Now, the other part of this is that the new moon is here and it's squaring, which means it's in a 90-degree angle to the planet Mars. Mars is in Gemini, which is very flitty and flighty and busy. There's a lot of busyness. So I would sense it at this new moon that a lot of thoughts are coming up, a lot of analysis, a lot of trying to get information, a lot of looking for answers elsewhere. And it can get very noisy. It can also, remembering that Mars is the planet of war, it can also create conflict between ourselves, within ourselves. It can bring criticism, it can amplify that, and it can also bring conflict into our relationships with other people. So when we are in conflict with other people, it's probably better to take a few deep breaths and retreat rather than go to war. It's always a choice that we make in a moment in terms of whether we're going to go to war or not, whether we're going to engage in a fiery way or we're going to actually wait until the waters have settled. And this new moon and building up to it and after it, there could be some fiery moments. Okay, so that's just one thing to be aware of. I've spoken quite a lot about Uranus, and Uranus is the planet of change. Over the last year, almost year and a half, Uranus has been in a square, coming and going into a square with the planet Saturn. Saturn is about structure, is about authority, is about rules, and Uranus is the rule breaker, the one who wants to change, the one who wants new. So Uranus is new, Saturn is old. Old contracts. Uranus comes in and says, no, these old contracts are not working, let's do something new. It's a very sparky energy. I sense Uranus as kind of electrical. It's electrical energy. So at the moment, Uranus is stationing. It's just turned retrograde. Stationing means that from our perspective, it looks like the planet's standing still. It's not actually standing still, but energetically we perceive it and feel it as to be standing still. And then it moves retrograde for the next while, few months. So when Uranus moves retrograde, and particularly when it stands still, from our perspective, it was almost like lightning striking the earth and continuing to strike the earth. So it's almost like there's a freeze frame of lightning striking the earth, because Uranus is in Taurus, which is earth, which is also our bodies, which is also, it represents our safety, our security, that which where we actually look for safety and security. So with Uranus now going retrograde, it's moving back into its final square with Saturn, which will happen in October. Right now, it's moved retrograde and it's still connecting with the north node of the moon, which is about our true potential. So I see this really as a time where we're being really called upon to break down what needs to be broken down in order to break through. And I did discuss it last time, but this is a sort of a part 2 of that. So what happens when these influences, the new moon with Mars, Uranus being retrograde, building to a square with Saturn, it's already in a square, it just isn't exactly direct yet. We're really looking at old patterns. We're looking at old conditioning. We're looking at our pain bodies, our wounded parts, the little selves. Those are coming out in Technicolor. So imagine that a lightning bolt has filled the sky. It lights everything up and it strikes the earth. It breaks up what is not serving. Any static, hard shells are breaking up so that we can actually birth something new. That's what we're actually experiencing with these energies. So it's uncomfortable. Uranian energy is not comfortable because it breaks up the status quo. It hoofs us out of our comfort zones. It sort of says, oh, there's a comfort zone there. You don't need it anymore. It's the old self, the little me that can't do this and can't do that and isn't good enough and is self-critical and doubts oneself. It's the little self that is breaking up, not the big self. The big self is the awareness, the consciousness that sees all, that is all. And this is showing us, it's simply showing us where the blocks are, which are preventing us from actually stepping into the true new potential, a rebirth, if you like. So it is actually, has the potential to help us to step into the free side of ourselves. That is what Uranus is. Uranus is a planet which represents freedom. But in order to do that, it can be quite harsh in its activity, in its energy. So that's what we're looking at. When it builds up in September, October, as it gets closer and closer to that square of with Saturn, it's likely that we're going to see possibly more laws being broken, laws being made, laws being broken, people revolting, revolutions, people standing up and protesting, whatever they might be protesting, because it's really about stepping into our sovereignty. And I think in this last 2 years, we've all been faced with that. You know, we've been faced with, where do we find our safety and security? Do we find it in the outside world? Do we find it here? Do we find it in our heads? No. Do we find it in our hearts? Much, much more. Because when we're connecting here, we're actually in alignment with the Earth's energy, with Taurus, the Earth. We're actually in alignment with it. As soon as we go up here too much and worry too much about the future and reflect and kind of cogitate about the past, we're actually stepping out of alignment. So this new moon is saying, with this new moon in Virgo in a square to Mars in Gemini, for me it's saying this is a time to really look at what our thoughts are, at what we're thinking. Not to believe them, because don't always believe your thoughts, because they're often not true, but to see them, to say, oh, wow, that's really interesting. What is the story that I'm telling myself in this moment? What is the trigger? What is the story I'm telling myself? To come back to the heart, to come back to presence, to actually say, yeah, the story I'm telling myself, is it true? Because it probably isn't, but it's being fed by your subconscious, and it's creating reactive patterns. So when we can see those stories, we can see what our reactive patterns are, we can actually shift them, because they're not who we are, because then we're the awareness that is seeing them. So this theme of breakdown or breakthrough to rebirth is very, very strong over the next few months. It's almost like we're clearing what we need to clear and building our resilience. I've said it a lot over the last few years, that we're building that taproot. We're strengthening that taproot. As part of this, and also aligned with this energy, John and I have planned another workshop, an online workshop, Journey to Freedom, starting on the 15th of September. I urge you to look at it, because these times are not going to come around again. So this is really a big opportunity for us to step into another level of our consciousness. We are shifting. Whether our outside situation is shifting, which it might not be at this point, it seems a bit static actually. There's a lot of retrograde action. There's a lot of squares in astrology, which kind of tends to block things. Even if it's not moving on the outside, things are shifting on the inside. Those old patterns are being broken down. The old you that is no longer serving is being exposed. The old conditioning is being exposed so that you can clear and heal, which is the theme for this new moon. And the theme is going to carry us through into September. So that's why we've launched out 2 offerings. Hogsback on the 23rd to the 27th. We've got some lovely special offers there. You can bring a partner. They pay less. You get 5 nights instead of 4. There's beautiful offers there. And you get an early bird special if you book before 30th of August. And then Journey to Freedom starting on the 15th of September, which is a 13-week online program which is designed to shift you into a higher level of yourself, into the true you, to actually help you to access and acknowledge and connect with who you really, really are, which is liberation. So we urge you to have a look at those two and see if you'd like to join us on either one of those. There's lots of energy here, lots of energy. We need to be very present over the next few days and the next week with all this energy that's sort of sparking things. Remember that lightning spark? Bring yourself back into the heart. One other energy that I haven't spoken about is Venus, which is the ruler of Taurus, which is where Uranus is actually in an opposition to Saturn. And Venus is the planet of relationships. It's the planet of love. It's the planet of money. So what is likely to happen at this point, at this time, is renegotiating, which is Saturn, our contracts. Renegotiating our contracts with ourselves. Saying, what contracts have I made with myself? Do I see myself in the role of whatever that may be? And have I contracted verbally or non-verbally to be that person? And is that still valid? Is that contract still valid? So for example, you might have an unspoken contract with yourself or somebody else, excuse me, that you are the caretaker in a relationship. You might have a contract that you're the one who does all the background work, or you're the one that goes out and makes all the money, or you're the one who pushes, or you're the one who nurtures, or whatever it is. What are your contracts, spoken or unspoken? And are those contracts still valid? So it is a time where we're going to be looking at contracts with people in our lives, with relationships, and saying, how do we renegotiate these contracts? How do we renegotiate our relationship? And it's also renegotiating your relationship with yourself. Do you need to hold on to those roles? Do you need to do things the same way as you've always done before? Because if you are doing that and there is resentment building, then it's time to look at it and say, well, are they even valid? Or can I step into a new version of myself? This is a rebirth, stepping into a new version, a new freer version. That's Uranus. That is what it's asking us to do. It's the new earth, not the old earth. So those old roles and old contractual agreements that we've made don't need to actually stay in place. And the awareness that there is a sense of insecurity when we shift that, because it can be the old known way of dealing with things. And now suddenly we're dealing with things in a new way. Suddenly we're dealing with things that we don't know what the outcome's going to be. I can't tell you how many people I know who are in a state of limbo, who are not sure what their next step is, where they're going to be, where they're going to live, how they're going to earn money. There are so many people in that situation because we need to be in that place of kind of in between worlds, because we're learning how to be present and to trust that there is a greater plan and that we are part of it. We're not separate from it. So when we step out of our alignment and we step into concern and worry and anxiety, we're actually stepping out of alignment. And that is weakening us. So it's to actually just keep bringing ourselves back. Keep bringing yourself back to your heart. Keep bringing yourself back to the breath. Keep bringing yourself back to gratitude for what you do have in this moment. I can breathe. The sun is shining into the room. I have food. Run a tap. I have water, fresh water to drink. Those things will actually bring you back when the world around us looks like it's going crazy. If you'd like to make an appointment, you can contact me via the link below, and we can look and see how this is reflecting in your chart to help you to navigate it, because each of us has our own birth chart. And what happens is planets move around that birth chart, because obviously we live in a dynamic universe and nothing is ever static. So wherever those planets are connecting with your planets in your unique blueprint, that will be what's up for you. That's what will be up. What's up for renewal. What's up for contractual renewal. What's up for healing. that will be shown in your own personal chart, because obviously these updates are general. They're for all of us, but then they are seen more clearly when we look at our natal charts. So whether you've had a chart done before or not, it's a good idea to have a redo, an update to see where those planets are. I think that's about all for me. I wish you a beautiful weekend. Spend some time going within. This is a good new moon to do that. It's also a very good new moon to spend time in meditation, to detox, clear your diet, drink lots of water. There's a lot of fixed energy still around. There's a lot of harsh energy. We need to soften it. So drink water, maybe have a nice soaking bath, go to the sea if you can. Just reconnect with earth and water. That'll actually help you to balance the energy as well. Thanks for listening. Lots of love, and take care of yourselves.